So more
All
people
right.
will see it later. And I'm recording now.
Okay, sounds good. Alrighty, hello, my name is Eadoin of Quernatema in Rivermore. Today I'm going to be teaching an introduction to card or tablet weaving, whichever one you want to call it. So let me pull up the handout. Because this is an introductory class meant for the very beginning weaver, we're going to go over a few things like loom types, tablet and card types, shuttles, yarn selection, S&C threading, terms to know, supplies, warping, weaving, wet finishing, and resources. We'll do the wet finishing if there's time, but I think that's a very important step that you want to do after you finish weaving. So the first loom type we have here, this is a South American backstrap loom. You do not have to get that fancy with this. You can tie one end of the warp to a doorknob or a banister or a hook on a wall, or just some set point that's not going to break when tension gets put onto it. And then the other end gets tied around your belt or a chair back or something that lets you adjust the tension as you work. This right here is a warping board. You can use warping boards to speed warp things that are not on circular warp looms, like a backstrap loom or a traditional card loom. This is a traditional card weaving loom. You found this in the Middle Ages. This particular one comes from the website Eggles Woodstuff. He makes some beautiful ones that have electric burns in the base. Eventually I'm going to have one. The way they work is you tie one end right here. It goes over here. Your cards and workspace are between these two bars. The other end goes here, and then you tie off here. And there are tightening pegs, so you can tighten, and you can get, I think they said, up to like 15 yards on these looms. So you can get a lot done on these little looms. They don't take up a lot of space. This is the more modern Inkle loom, which was patented in the 1930s. This is a really nice, it's really easy to warp. I like it because you don't have to cut off of a warping board and put onto a different type of loom. It is your warping board, it is your loom, it's all in one. What I like about this particular style from Eggles Woodstuff is that the tension bar is right in here, and then your workspace is from here to here. So your workspace does not shorten as you go. The loom I'm going to be using today, the tension bar is part of the workspace, so the workspace shortens as you go. And then here we have something that is similar to the Osberg loom. I could not find a picture of the Osberg loom itself. That was not a reproduction. So what I like about this one is there's a little wheel right down here by her knee. We think, scholars think that had to do with adjusting tension on the loom itself so that you didn't have to untie and retie. I also like the little baby walker. Card types. We've got, these are the most traditional ones found today. I don't know if there's any extant examples of cardstock ones or paper ones from the period, but we do have examples of bone, leather, and wood looms, cards, sorry. My brain's in the right place, I swear. I like to use the cardstock ones. However, they're a little big for the loom I'm going to be using today, so I'm just going to have to deal with that. You can also take old credit cards and gift cards, and you can cut them into shape. I've got a friend that swears by these. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure to round off the corners, otherwise it's going to slice through your threads. Shuttles. There's a wide variety of shuttles. I like to use this particular style because it's small and it fits in my hand. Yarn selection. So there are 4 main yarns that are used in weaving. Other yarns are used as well, but these are the 4 that I've seen most often. You've got cotton, which is really cheap and pretty easy to work with. That's what I'll be using today. Linen is a little bit harder to work with. Silk is a dream to work with, but it's expensive. Wool is hard to work with and is expensive. So it looks great. Acrylics, they're harder to work with and they're stretched when they're put under tension. People generally do not recommend them for weaving. However, if you have someone with a wool allergy, they do give the wool look without the worries of the allergens. So that is an option, but it's not generally recommended, especially not for beginning weavers. S and Z threading refers to the shape that the yarn makes when you pass it through the cards. So as you can see here, it makes an S, and here it makes a Z. So pretty simple. However, there is no standard for how this is indicated on patterns. Some people put an S, some people put a Z, some will put which way the slant of the yarns. Some people put the slant of the cards. I use the slant of the cards because it's easier for me. But any good pattern book will tell you which way they used to indicate it. So just something to look out for when you get the patterns. Some good terms to know. We've got the warp, the threads that go around the loom. The weft is the thread that goes between the warp threads. The shed is the space between the warp threads where the shuttle passes through. The shuttle is used to pass the weft thread through the shed. Pick is, depending on what type of weaving you're doing, it's one pass. So like with four-hole tablet weaving, it's 1/4 turn of the cards is one pick. Reverse, changing the direction that the card turns. So to do weaving, you're going to need a loom of your choice. If you're doing backstrap, you don't need a loom. You are the loom. You need a shuttle. You need yarn, tablets, cards of your choice, yarn snips, craft popsicle sticks. Yarn darner or Chanel needle is for finishing it off, so you don't need it to start. You just need it to finish. And optional but handy to have is a pattern to follow. So I finally fixed my pattern. I had it wrong for the longest time and I didn't realize it. So now we're going to go to warping the loom, and I'm going to show you how to speed warp. So let me stop sharing. And pull up that. Okay, I already have the cards turned the direction they need to be. So all I have to do is pass threads through. Yes, it goes through CD, C, A, B. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. All right, normally for demonstrations, I use size 10 crochet cotton or size 5 or 3 crochet cotton. I didn't have a chance to go to the store to pick up more, so I'm going to be using size 10 today. Normally I have bowls to put these in so they don't go all over the place, but I didn't do dishes last night, so I don't have any bowls. If you have yarn bowls, that's a good way to go too. So you're going to need however many holes have the same color, that's how many skeins you need. So like the border cards are all the same color in this hole, so I need 4 skeins of the border color and 2 skeins of the pattern color. So the first thing you do is you thread the cards. And I have all of my border cards on one end, so I can do all of the border cards at once, and I've only got to clip once. Okay. If you're doing a thicker stack of cards, you might need the yarn darner or Chanel needle to thread the cards. Also, if you're using cards with smaller holes. But because this is only 14 cards thick, it's not that hard to thread them. All right, so once the holes are threaded, we're going to take and we're going to even them out, even out the threads. So they're all roughly the same length. Come on. And then we're going to tie them off with a single knot so that they can be treated as one thread. Okay. Now the next step, you need to anchor the end of the yarn. So you're going to take it, pass it over. I'm not sure what the proper name for this knot is. Tie once. And then you come. You're not going to bring it all the way through this time because you need to be able to undo it easily. So you're going to just pull through a loop. And that way, it'll hold. So now you've got it anchored. It's time to start warping. Remember to drop a card with each pass. I have forgotten to do this and had to rewarp half the warp on a 72 card warp. So you just pass it around the loom, make sure each pass is following the same path. Otherwise, you've got to rewarp. And that's a pain in the butt. You don't necessarily have to cut depending on how far in you are, but you might have to cut if things get tangled. Okay. And I am not worrying about making sure the cards are facing the right way on this initial warping because they're going to get all mixed around anyway. So I will worry about that after everything is warped. All right, so this is the last border card. You do one last pass for it. And then the next step, so we've done all of our border cards. We are ready for the pattern cards. So let me double check my pattern and make sure I cut the right ones. Otherwise, I've got to adjust cards afterwards, and that's no fun. So on 12, white goes through CD. Where'd my snips go? So we're going to set the cards down and make sure you're going through the back of the deck with the new card, with the new threads. Otherwise, it's a tangled mess and you have to cut stuff. All right. So I'm going to snip C and D and set those aside since I no longer need those two particular skeins. Then we're going to take the new ones and we're going to tie them on. I like to use a double square knot because it seems to hold the best. I think there's something called a weaver's knot you can use, but I'm not sure how to use it. I'll be honest. So you're just tying the new thread onto the old thread. And if you do a single square knot, it will come undone under pressure. And then you have to retie, and that's no fun. that one. Okay. And then just like before, you're going to drop a card. And pass it around. And you keep doing that until you are fully warped. All right, so here we have the last card. We keep going around one last time. All right. And once that is done, where did my snips go? Right there. I should put them somewhere easy to find. We're going to take and we're going to cut all four. And just like at the beginning, we're going to tie a knot so they can be treated like one. Now we're going to take this beginning knot and we're going to undo it. And then we're going to tie square knot or whatever high tension withstanding knot you prefer. Again, I prefer the square knot. Oh no. So something I forgot to do was loosen the tension peg so I can tighten it to its full tautness when I'm weaving. Because of that, my yarns are going to be a little loose when I start weaving. But two things are certain when you are card weaving. You're going to build up twist and you're going to build up tension. So it will not be a problem for long. And there you have speed warped your loom. Now it's time to put the cards in order. To do that, you want to loosen the tension peg. At this point, I like to pull it through so that all the knots are out of the way and out of your workspace. And then we're going to take our 2 border cards for the other side and move them to the other side. A little bit. There we go. Wait, it's not being janky. All right, now we're going to put the cards in their proper positions. Now, for most patterns, your AD should be at the top. That's not true with all of them. So just check your pattern. Always, always check your pattern. I'm just going through and getting the cards flipped the right direction. The right way. Okay. So now that my cards should all be in the proper order, flip the right direction so they are properly S and Z threaded. I've got something tight somewhere. There we go. Now it's time to start weaving. And this is where the popsicle sticks come in. So I like to do 4 picks with popsicle sticks for 2 reasons. 1, to make sure I got the pattern right. And 2, so I can have something solid to beat against. And you can get these in like 150 count bags at craft stores. All right, so you're going to take the first popsicle stick, insert it into your shed. Then you're going to turn the cards forward 1 pick, so 1/4 turn. Put the next one in, turn forward. What's caught? There we go. Okay. Hey, I got it right. All right, I fixed the pattern. And then after your fourth one, you should be back at your starting position of AD up top. So now you're going to take your shuttle, which should be wrapped in thread, which I'm sorry, I didn't show you how to do that. It's pretty easy to do. And you're going to pass through left to right, right to left, doesn't matter which way you start. If you have a preference, go with your preference. And you're going to leave a tail. And then you're going to turn. And beats. And pass through. Tighten. And then you're going to take the tail, pass through, tighten, and turn. And I generally pass the tail through for 4 turns. That way I catch all of the loose outside border threads. Alrighty. So on my 5th, once I'm back at my home, I'm not going to pass this tail through all the way. I'm going to take it about halfway through and then drop it down between. And this way you can cut off from the bottom and you don't have a tail sticking out one side. And then you just keep going. Now, usually at some point, you're probably going to run out of weft thread. So I'm going to cut and like, oh no, this is the end of my weft thread. So the next step then is you pass it through. You're going to turn. You're going to take and you're going to pass the new thread through. Well, first you're going to take the old thread, pass it through, all the way through. And I like to take the shuttle up after I beat down. About halfway, so I don't have a tail sticking out one side. And make sure it's going through the same way as before. Turn. Beats. And then you're going to take the tail of the old weft and pass it down through. And that way you don't have any tails sticking out the side. And then you keep going. And as you can see, we have a lovely chevron. So when you're done weaving, I'm going to get back to the home color. All right. So when you're done weaving, you're going to do your final pass like you normally would. Then you're going to snip. Make sure you leave a nice tail. And this is where the yarn darner or chenille needle comes in. You're going to take the thread and you're going to take the yarn, you're going to thread the needle and pass it back through the weaving. You only need to do this once or twice. Make sure you don't pull too tight. And when you're done with all the passes for it, you're going to pass it down through the middle. And there you have finished off the band. It's not going to unravel on you. And eventually you can take these out before you advance it. To advance it, it's pretty simple. You loosen the tension bar. If you are the tension bar, you go towards the wall that you have it tied to. Advance it. Tighten it back up. Just like that. Okay. So the next thing to discuss is wet finishing. Let me do a screen share real quick. Share. Okay. Wet finishing is something that I just learned about, maybe a month and a half ago. And I'm going to do it with every band I have now because it is a marvelous thing. So it's especially important if it's going to be sewn onto projects as trim or a strap, because if it's going to get washed and it's not wet finished, the band is going to shrink, and that's going to leave all kinds of weird puckering on the finished project. What it does, it relaxes the fibers and pre-shrinks it for you. It's also going to make it softer. And when you're using a silk cashmere blend, what was already soft is even softer, and it's magnificent. You're going to want to make sure to use color catcher sheets in all of your soaks to get all of the color that might not be set into the yarn. So step number 1, you soak it in cool water for 10 minutes. Just plain old water, nothing added to it. Just the bands, the color catcher sheets, and water. The next step is you soak it in cool or warm water depending on your fiber content. And then also depending on fiber content is whether or not you use mild detergent or mild shampoo. If it's an animal hair like wool, you're going to want to use a mild shampoo. Like I like to use mane and tail. Mane and tail is a marvelous thing. I will sing that to high heaven. I use it for my hair. I use it for my dog's hair, my dog's fur. It's marvelous. Once it's soaked there for another 10 minutes, you rinse out the soap. And then you're going to tap out the excess water with a towel. The next soak is in cool water, and you're going to add a little bit of vinegar to it. And that soak is also for 10 minutes. And when that's done, you're going to tap out the excess water with a towel. And the next step is blocking it. If it's short enough, you can pin it down to a table. I have a table covered in corkboard and vinyl. And I just pin it onto that and let it dry that way. If it's too long, you can't pin it down. You can't pin all of it down. You can hang it over a bar with even weights on both ends. Make sure there's no twists in it, because if it dries with a twist, it's going to have a twist for the rest of its life. So just make sure there's no twists. So that is how you wet finish a band. And like I said, it is marvelous. Some good resources to have. Oh, I didn't bring the books up with me. Card Weaving by Candace Crockett. I don't know if that one's in print anymore. It might be hard to find, but it's a good one for just beginning. It's not very intimidating. It's a pretty thin book, but it's got a lot of good info in it. Oh, excuse me. The Techniques of Tablet Weaving by Peter Collingwood is a thicker book. It has more historical information in it. Tablets at Work by Claudia Wolney and Appleseeds and Foxnoses. I'm going to butcher those names if I try to pronounce them, so I'm not going to. Are also both good books. I do not have them personally, but other weavers have spoken very highly of them. The YouTube link shows you how to warp the loom using fishing swivels, because what those will do is it'll help get rid of the twist that's going to build up as you weave. Another good way to get rid of the twist is, if you're able to, is reverse the cards, reverse the pattern. Those are pretty much the only two ways to get rid of twist that I know of. And then we've got some resources for supplies. Looms by Garen. There's his Etsy shop. I do not personally have any Looms by Garen looms, but I've seen other people using them, and they are beautiful looking looms. The people who use them speak very highly of them. He's also got shuttles, and I think he's able to do wood cards, but I'm not sure. Eggles Wood Stuff, that is where my main looms come from. When I have to do looms weavings for commissions, or if I'm doing something really long, I'll use my Eggles looms. He's got looms, shuttles, and tablets. White Wolf and Phoenix has looms, tablets, and yarn. I don't know about shuttles. I didn't specifically put that, so they may not have shuttles, but I don't know why they wouldn't, though. Paradise Fibers for yarn, Knit Picks for yarn, Blackwater Treasures has silk yarn. They do not have very thick silk yarn. It's thinner than the size 10 crochet cotton that I normally use. It's more like an embroidery yarn. So if you're going to be doing a really wide band that needs a lot of detail in it, that's a good yarn to use, because it's inexpensive, and they've got a lot of it. Guchette has silk cashmere blend as well as other yarns. That was my first time weaving with silk, and it was a dream to work with, so I highly recommend Guchette. They're a thicker yarn, about a size, close to like a size 3 crochet cotton. And then if you're in Canada, Camilla Valley Farm has some good yarns, and there's another one that I can't remember off the top of my head that I should have put in here, but I didn't. Etsy also has several vendors for patterns, tablets, looms, yarns. I don't like selling on Etsy, but I love buying from Etsy because you're supporting small makers most of the time. And that is all I've got. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Well, thank you for that. I have one I would add for that's good for shuttles, cards, and looms is Windhaven Fiber Tools. It can be kind of
Oh yeah,
one of your looms, but I own 3 of them, and I absolutely love them. The double-sided looms, like the accordion and the concertina, are very good for tablet weaving, because then you can move things to the center, and it helps balance things out quite a bit. And they have pretty good tension, and they're very well made. But they're handmade to order, so it can take a long time to get them. But they're worth the wait. I'm going to stop recording.
Sounds awesome.